What is up, RotoGrinders? Good morning. Yeah, normally you're 33 minutes into listening to Blender talk about what's going on in the slate today, and that's not the case because I'm invading the turf because what's going on? There is some afternoon baseball. We have a show later on, a 10-gamer. We have a 4-gamer, just a 4-gamer. It is 5 on the slate, but St. Louis, they were shenanigans last night with St. Louis. They had a suspended game. The suspended game is leading to a goofy time as far as when they're going to start the official game today. So DK, they just went ahead and trashed it. That game is no longer on the slate. So Blender, who's back, he survived the Bad Religion concert. The mosh pit, I'm sure, was wild. But welcome back there.
The mosh pit of the Bad Religion show. It was a bunch of 16-year-olds or 22-year-olds. There were maybe 30 of them, and the rest it was like, yeah, some people stood, and some people were like, yeah, we're too old for this.
Where were you?
I would have never thought 25 years ago, going to see Bad Religion, that I'd see them at this age, and I'd have seats and sit and enjoy the show.
25 years ago, Blender is looking at is that somehow you can do this, so like a Back to the Future thing or something like that. You see your current self at a Bad Religion concert, and what do you say about this guy? Like you're staring at your future self. You don't know it's your future self, but you're staring at your future self. And what are you saying? Like, I can't look at this guy. Does this guy know it's his Bad Religion? Like, what are we doing?
No, it's about the same. It's more about what the rest of the people are doing. 25 years ago, I would have sat for Bad Religion also, just that you couldn't because everyone else was standing up. So you have to stand up. So like I didn't change. Everyone else changed.
Okay.
Everybody
else caught up with you.
Person from what I was when I was 20. It's just that I would have never thought if I went to a hardcore show or something like that, the only people that listen to this stuff are like 40 and 50-year-olds now, and that's everyone now, right?
So like you were annoyed that you had to stand.
I was the old guy. I was 20 years old, and I was still like the guy that's like, why are you acting like you're 55? It's like, that's who I am. I'm sorry.
That's great. So everybody kind of caught up with you. All right. We're here to talk a little bit of baseball. We got a 4-gamer, 55 minutes until we yield to Kevin Roth. We got Stevie coming in and Dave Potts. CheeseIsGood. You guys know Dave Potts. He's won $1 million a couple times, writes the musings. One slight, I should say a slight weather issue. Currently, we are yellow in Cleveland. I just went ahead and dropped this in the chat for the people. Mets at Cleveland, and I'll just give a quick little synopsis that Roth said since we have time to knock it out. Cluster of storms zips by early in the game. I think the likelihood of a delay is fairly high, but the likelihood of a postpone is very low. Just looks to me like they either start late and play dry or risk an early delay. But the rain doesn't linger and cause great problems. Winds out to right center 15 miles per hour on a warm day. So, yeah, we'll see what they say as far as if they're going to start late or not. I think that's a 2 o'clock game, right? That's a 1:10 game, so no.
1:10. No, that's early.
Okay, so we will know what they're doing, but that is interesting because if they are starting, and like obviously I'm bearing the lead as far as the pitchers today. The 2 best pitchers in the slate very, very clearly are facing each other. Tarek Skubal, Cole Riggins, 7 total, Detroit at Kansas City. The ballpark is playing more pitcher-friendly than hitter-friendly than it did yesterday. And, of course, these pitchers are like very, very clearly, no matter what you're looking at, I don't know what metric you have, but they're clearly the best pitcher in the slate. Tarek Skubal, 31.6% Ks in the season, 3.8% walks, awesome K rate, awesome walk rate. He's just been spectacular. If you care about such things like ERA, it's a 1.8 ERA, a 2.52 Sierra backs that up. Reagan's, despite having a couple scuffles this year, is mostly corrected himself for a 3.7 ERA. Is not great, but the Sierra's lower, 3.35. The Ks are good at 27%. Blender, how do we get different in the slate? Because Blender, if I'm running some optimals, I know, baseball optimals, you know what I mean, though. Skubal and Reagan's, that's going to be the combination that's going to pop up for us. Maybe a cheap Hunter Brown, who's shown flashes, but he's been mostly disappointing this season. How do we get different in the slate? What is the overview for you?
Well, it's a 4-game slate, and when these smaller slates, there's a much higher reward for being different because the opportunity cost is low. When we have 12-game MLB slates, I'm going to stack against Cole Reagan's, like with the Tigers, like you wouldn't do because you have so many more options, right? Why take the team with the 3-point-nothing implied team total and hope that that's the top stack of the entire slate. Although you'll get a lot of leverage, and also the pitchers aren't as owned, right? The highest owned pitchers on large slates are 30, maybe 30, 35, 40. I mean, sometimes you get even more depending on the price. Here, it's very condensed. You know where the leverage is. Like, you just have to have the cojones to take it. And I think there's multiple places to do so. I mean, I think it's quite clear that Skubal and Reagans are the top two projected pitchers on the slate. And I think it's also clear that Hunter Brown at 6,500 is like the cheap pitcher that has a good median projection, but also has a very wide range of outcomes. So you may get the good Hunter Brown that doesn't walk anyone, or the Hunter Brown that walks everyone, and then you're toast there. So that's why looking for the high variance situations where the ownership is going way more so to one way than the other is kind of where I'd be looking at. But a lot of these pitchers, truthfully, it's a lot of low upside pitcher. I mean, we have a lot of that. Most of the pitchers on this slate can put up 10 points fantasy. I mean, 10, that's not asking much, right? 10 fantasy points. But there are many that are going to put up 20 plus today. And it really just comes down to like BABIP, I guess. And that makes it so that, I mean, just like Cheese said in I read his musings, like the stacks, like you could I think you could kind of play anyone on this slate, and there'd be there would be a compelling reason to play any pitcher and any stack on the slate, and you have to decide which is the more compelling reason to you, and also not making a lineup that is 1,000,000% owned, because I think there's the kind of the clear build. I think is going to be like Skubal, Reagans, Brown, 2 of the 3, and then you're playing like Cleveland,
Minnesota,
Houston type of lineups, and I wouldn't want to like have that fully. Like I would, all of them individually sound fine, but like I wouldn't put those things together.
What if you did it like 3-3-2 though? Like, some people go 5-3 and that's where they kind of set it. And maybe you get 3-3-2 or 3-3-1-1, that kind of thing. You bring another team in.
Why not 1-1-1-1-1? Why don't you just take a player from 8 different teams like you normally, right?
Like I normally do.
No,
Well, I mean, I know you're making a joke, but like,
right.
I'm more likely to do that on this kind of slate, where you just basically homer hunting. And here's the thing. Every one of your hitters, especially on a 4-game slate, they're all not going to be great. Even in winning lineups, you're going to have a couple guys that probably didn't do spectacular. So that's how that goes, because, there's only so many routes to points. And like with the fewer batters taking swings, the fewer homers, the fewer guys put up big scores. That's just how that goes. It's going to be a really interesting conversation. And you got to roster 25% of these pitchers. That's just how that goes. Have you decided? Are you sort of figuring? I always want to know what contest you enter, because that certainly dictates what you're doing as well. We don't talk about that enough, because a different conversation will be had if you're playing the lotto with like 30,000 entries as opposed to single entry stuff with 200 and 300 people. What is your mode of attack as far as a slate?
In between those two. Typically, I play the contests that are in between those, right? Aren't the smallest of the small, but aren't the biggest of the big, right? The mid stakes, mid range type of contests. But on your point, I'm going to run. I mean, I don't know if we have remember, we have SimLabs here at RotoGrinders. If you're a premium member, if you're not using that and you're a premium member, I don't know what you're doing. Okay, we have it updated 11/31 because I ran it earlier before. And for this type of slate, okay, so I'm just looking large. Like let's just go large field, just because we get just as many options as we possibly can. 150. I'm not going to put in a minimum stack. A lot of times on the large slates, I know I'm playing 5-man stacks, but I'm using this for research purposes of like we only have 4 game options. I don't want to necessarily, maybe I do play 5-man stacks. I just want to see what SimLabs likes. Like just in general, I'm going to run it and go, what stack configurations are there? Because maybe it's going to come up that not many 5-man stacks are.
I'm going to bet on that. I'm going to say it's not going to be a slew of 5-man stacks. I could be wrong on this. You're more savvy.
I think there'll be plenty. I think maybe it'll be less than we'd normally see on a slate. Okay, so I did 150. That's how quick it is. Look, 5 seconds. I mean, this is ridiculous. You should be doing this if you're a RotoGrinders premium member.
How would I go about getting access to it, Blender? Though, how would I don't have current access to RotoGrinders premium. And is there a way? Maybe is there any sort of deals currently going on that you can?
Well, I think the first thing that people
direction?
should do if they really want RotoGrinders premium access is to DM Dean on Twitter, right? To get more because you have to filter because Dean, all of those cam girls that are in your DMs, you have to find a way to filter them. So it's like is this the spam bot cam girl that is before the DFS dude asked me about the subscription? So you have to kind of like delineate what date that was on. So it helps your message requests part of the Twitter experience. So first thing, I would definitely do that. And if you have nudes, that probably helps. Right, so feel free. That's the first thing that you should do, and then
gotta get that out of the way. How many interactions does it normally take for you to realize? Oh, wait a second, I'm talking to a robot. I thought this person was actually interested in what I had to say. 4 or 5.
For me,
anyways.
So for you, it's 4 or 5, right? For me, I just. You can't tell when they have 0 followers and 4 people following that.
I'm making a joke, but go ahead, continue.
Right, okay. But after you do that, after you get through that barrier, then you go to rotogrinders.com/premium. You click on that link in the description of this video, and we're running multiple deals, right? Me, I'm a man of commitment. I think you should just jump right in 6 months. You get $250 off. So that's almost getting 2 months for free. So you go in there, you get the RotoGrinders premium, you get all the sports. It's just MLB. You get everything other than NASCAR. Stevie corners that NASCAR stuff. You have to get that separately.
It's that niche market, man. He's got it locked down.
He's got it locked down. And then if you're not as committed, you could only commit for a month. We could even give you $40 off for that. So feel free to click on that link in the description. And I know Dean's going to tell me, well, what happens if I just want to try it out? And I would say that I know there's a deal for that, but you should we only want people that are committed.
What are you going to tell me if I only want to commit for 1 month or 3 or 3 days?
I don't even want to do $19.99 for 3 days. What am I, a sex worker? Come on, 3 days? That's it? Get out of here.
What is happening on this show, Blender?
All right. 3 days.
Well, all the links are in the description. What is SimLabs telling us?
Okay, so as far as stacks, so not many 5-3s. So if you just look at 5-man stacks, so instead of the combinations 5-1, 5-2, none of that matters. So 5-man stacks out of the 100%, I get 18, 27. Only 30% of the lineups are 5-man stacks.
There you go.
4-man stacks, there's 40, about 50% are 4-man stacks in some configuration, right? I'm not just at least 4 guys from a team. So 30% 5-man, 50% 4-man, and the rest is just gobbledygook or whatever. 3-2, 1-1, that type of stuff. A little bit more valid on this slate, but I think this makes sense. The number 1 stack type is 4-2, 1-1.
That's what I said. You were making fun of me.
I wasn't making. You would go in the 3. You went to 3.
I said 4-2, 1-1, and you go, oh, why not just 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1?
No, you said 3. I 3,
I mixed it up on you.
Whatever.
So
and also I could see here it wants a lot of Tariq Skubal. So I think that's and a decent amount of Cole Reagans. I mean, that's number 2. So it's quite clear they're the 2 highest projected pitchers.
Do you think you're going to play them together? I'm probably going to play them together on my main team and just try to be a little bit different, get a different combination. And again, my main team is going to be I'm talking the 121 with 300 people or something like that. I'm not talking about the bingo. By the way, I should mention, shout out to the chat. What's up, chat? Hit that like button, do subscribe, turn on those notifications. We appreciate all that, helping us keep the lights on. We got Don Yeezy. Shout out to Don Yeezy. Finished 4th last night out of 1,200 people, stacking Kansas City and the Braves. The Braves, no help. But Bobby Witt, man, just one of the greatest, 22, 23 years old. I was talking about it yesterday on the show. I was talking about it last night on the Twitter. That deal that he signed, 11 years, $280 million, give or take, it's going to look like a steal. Like, in considering the way other contracts are going, just an awesome job by Kansas City to lock him down forever. And Garcia also was spectacular. So shout out that I can't see his stack yet. It was a really interesting slate last night because Dansby Swanson was super cheap and in the win game, and he had revenge too. And he was like 2-8 on DK. And it's like, yeah, maybe we should pivot off him in tournaments because there's Gunnar Henderson, there's Betts, there's Dan's, there's guys like Witt that can absolutely shellac the slate. And also Michael. Michael has finished top 5 in the $4 lottery with Kansas City and Houston. All right. So we got some people taking some stuff down last night. All right. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Blender, but I do want to acknowledge the chats, some winners. Feel free to continue.
I think we have the same issue with today's slate. Like you said in small field contests that you're like, okay, I'm going to look to play Skubal and Reagans. And Skubal and Reagans, I mean, they're expensive. So, I mean, like, you're going to be paying 10.5 for Skubal, 9.7 for Reagans. The issue comes in is that do you want to play the chalky, you want to play Jonathan Rodriguez at 2K? That's, I mean, a lot of the lineups, DJ Stewart at 3,200. Like some of these, you're going to end up on very similar value plays, projection wise, playing like going double barrel at pitcher. And don't get me wrong, I'm the man that loves to go double barrel at pitcher. I mean, that's the whole vomit philosophy is going double barrel at pitcher. But
it doesn't really exist anymore. Is the thing. This is a rare case.
I would look to a way to avoid like the 20+% owned value plays, especially as one-offs in your lineups if you're going to double barrel in small field, especially since small field, that ownership is going to get even higher in there.
I'm trying to figure out who Jonathan Rodriguez is. You see me typing, like, who is this person?
Guardians. He's on these.
No, I know that, but I'm just trying to see if this is somebody that we should really be aware of. Is this a prospect? I have no clue who Jonathan Rodriguez is.
He's Jay Rodriguez. So, I mean, I just look at him and goes, he can't be. I mean, he's a cheaper version of Julio Rodriguez.
Well, actually, Julio, I know you're making a joke, but Julio Rodriguez has been playing like Jonathan Rodriguez. He's been terrible this year.
Maybe
he's
should
been
be
so bad. Yeah, he's been really bad. We talked about that last night as well. I assume he's going to break out of it at some point, but it's been a pretty horrific season for J-Rod. There are 8 pitchers on this slate. 8 pitchers. You got to roster 25% of them. Tarek Skubal, Cole Reagans. Those are the clear and obvious ones. The cheap pivot. By the way, I should pull up the ownership stuff. Got to share that. And I will mention, this is not going to chase me away, but if you're looking for one reason, extreme hitters umpire for Skubal and Reagans. That's the only extreme we have. We have no extreme pitchers umpire, but there is an extreme hitters umpire for Skubal and Reagans, but I don't think I care. Hunter Brown is next up. Ownership wise, by the way, we're getting 48% for Skubal. This is on FanDuel, by the way. He's getting almost half the field, despite the fact he's even more than Reagans. You just happen to have the salary for it. We got 20% for Reagans. I'll jump over to DK as well, which the numbers are going to be even higher because, you get a total of 200% as opposed to 100%. And we have them each blender. Skubal 53%, Reagans at 50%. Then Hunter Brown at 30%, Woods Richardson 25%, who's not anything special. Jake Urban on the other side of that game, 18%. 10%, Rosa Quintana is just cheap. Not good, but he's cheap. McKenzie, who still is fine considering he's going with
still kind of injured.
I don't know. I was listening to the broadcast in Cleveland. They were talking about what a great teammate he is. He was determined because they've had several injuries. Bieber went down this year, and he's he just didn't want to. He didn't want to not pitch, and he's pitching through it this elbow issue, and the velocity's down, and the Ks are down, and the walks are up, but he's he's still going out there and taking the ball, and this is a guy who once had a really big ceiling, not really flashing it so much this year, but. Good for him being a good teammate. I don't know what his contract situation is, but maybe think about yourself.
Do we get points for him being a good teammate? Do we get points in DFS for that?
I don't think DK offers any. It's also subjective, but I don't think DK offers. You should get points for being a good teammate if you drop a sacrifice bunt. That should be worth 2 points, right? Being a good teammate. What's more tilting than watch your players sacrifice bunt? Are you seriously? This is what we're doing? We're sacrifice bunting. Yeah, but I don't think that's actually in the scoring system. Good team. High five in the dugout.
I play MMA. Half of that scoring is subjective. What they count as a significant strike. So being a good teammate should be. How good of a teammate were they today? It's
there's strikes and there's significant strikes. Is that correct? Right. There's a strike a standard strike, and there's
And
a significant strike.
Yes, that's correct.
And like, yeah, I guess that how does and is it the same score for the entire night, or do they switch them out every match? Do you know what I'm asking? Is like the same person who's scoring this thing 15 matches in a row?
Yeah. But what they count as a significant strike is like subjective.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Was that significant enough for you? I don't know. Well, whatever they counted that for that fight is what we just live by that. We play DFS for that. So why don't we we should have subjective scoring in MLB DFS.
Did you ever try to like do your own scoring and say, "Oh, that looks significant. That looked like it hurt." Like, did you ever try to do it and get close? Or
a lot of times, Dean, it's the ground strikes that are not significant. So like it doesn't matter. But the ones on the feet are significant. But I mean, we have, dude, in MLB DFS, you know what the most tilting thing is? The most tilting thing.
Catcher interference.
No. The most tilting thing when you don't have, especially if you're doing well and some chalk guy, the lack of the errors because the guys didn't touch the ball, like the fly ball that someone loses in the lights or something, and then it like bounces behind their behind them, and next thing you know, the guy gets a triple, and it's like this is an error. That is an error. That there's not. This shouldn't be credited as a triple. Like you see these things all the time of like obviously misjudging fly balls, even if they missed the. I mean, I saw one when it literally hit off his glove. I think it was in the Red Sox game or something.
Generally, the rule is if it hits the glove, it's going to be an error. But if you don't touch it, it's not going to be it. That's the general rule. The other thing is like 20% of the time they lose the ball in the lights or in the sun, they're not wearing sunglasses. It's like, well, what is this thing where it's like, I'm too cool for that. I can stare into the sun and catch the ball. Well, what is the like? You don't get extra points for that.
You should. Maybe that's what we should be getting extra points. We have to have input in our model what outfielders are wearing sunglasses. We should get fielding points in DFS. Why aren't we getting fielding points?
We should get fielding points. Then all of a sudden I would roster like Luis Guillermo or something like that. But I'm not sure if he's a good fielder. I think he's a glove guy. I'm pretty sure he's certainly not a bat guy. But yeah, it's you're trying to make the game more complicated, Blender. You're different. I think catcher interference is a big tilting because you get 0 points when you have this your best hitters at the plate and the catcher decides to stick his glove in the way and you hit it and you get nothing. Why don't I get any points? Give me at least 2 points. Give me something for catcher interference. No,
there should be negative points for balks. Let's make it really complicated.
Any other ideas, Chad? Tell us anything else you want to add to the scoring system. It'll be fun. For like one day, they should at least do it, right? Let's see if we can make this work. We'll all send DK or FanDuel a mass email or something like that. I'm trying to figure out ways to be different off of Scooball and Reagan's. I'm most likely just playing them. Sure, Hunter Brown, I guess, 30% owned. He's not hiding anywhere in the slate. He's the clear and obvious, like cheapie. You could play Quintana. Quintana's not good, but like he can eke his way to 13 points if BABIP's on his side. McKenzie's not cheap, and like I don't know what his upside is, and there's also potential weather there. We do want to monitor that because, and Roth will be on top of this when he comes on like a half hour plus. He's basically saying if they start the game, there's a chance that it will start it on time. There's a chance that it will delay. Now, there's also a chance to just start and delay and wait for whatever is out there that's lurking that will pass. And then I would assume that means there's less chance of a delay once the game inevitably starts. But we want to keep our eye on that. That's a 110 game. Also interested in the hitters. We'll talk about that because it seems like the weather. I was looking at Weather Edge. Looks pretty good for hitting in Cleveland today. But do you have anything you want to say as far as Jake Irvin or McKenzie or Tyler Anderson?
I literally think any pitcher is viable on the slate. I wouldn't play a Tristan McKenzie, Jake Irvin lineup, right?
Yeah.
It was the type. What I mean by any pitchers in play is that I think you're playing one of Scooball or Reagan's. Like just you're playing one of the pitchers from the Tigers Royals game, and Brown is going to be the most popular one of the cheaper pitchers to pair with that. But he also has the highest upside. We take a look at these strikeout props, and it's clear that Hunter Brown is higher. Everyone else is kind of like in run protection type of plays where Jake Irvin against Minnesota. I mean, he's the type of pitcher. If Minnesota doesn't hit the ball as well, and you could get 12 fantasy points. I mean, I think I'm much more likely to take. I mean, they're so close. It's like one of these things of like Hunter Brown is in the bucket, but he's like at the top of the bucket, and everyone else is kind of like. I think the out of the rest, I would go with Woods Richardson against the Nationals. I don't think I'm as scared about the Nationals lineup as some of the other lineups. I mean, Cleveland, like Jose Quintana, I just don't want to play Jose Quintana. I mean,
Me either.
Jose Quintana is is just above having a position player like pitch. Right? Because it's not, I mean, it's not like he's going to walk. It's not like he's bad where he's walking people and stuff like he's just like, he doesn't strike many people out anymore. And he's facing a team that has like an almost no, that has what the best, the best strikeout rate in the entire league. I mean, the least amount of strikeouts in the league. So like 5,300 is really cheap, but I mean, if he gets hit for 2 or 3 runs, I mean, how does he? I mean, he's at Zach Greinke type of levels where, like, you better hope that he goes 5 innings, no earned runs, because I don't know how else he's going to score like 15 plus points. But I mean, you could say the same thing in a way with Woods Richardson or Jake Irvin or Tyler Anderson or Tristan McKenzie at that point. Now, obviously, Tyler Anderson is facing the Astros, which is, I typically don't like picking on the Astros. Jake Irvin is facing the Twins, a little bit better matchup, but still not a big fan of that, right?
I'd have him last for the record. I'd have Tyler Anderson last. I just no.
Right. I mean, I would have him last, but I don't think he's that far. Like if you're like, oh, I'm gonna play Jake Irvin, and I'm gonna play Tyler Anderson instead of Jake Irvin. I'd be like, that isn't that. I mean, Tyler Anderson would be like the leverage spot on the pitcher side because the if you're gonna spend up on bats, it's probably gonna be the Astros. But the problem is, and once we get into stacks, is that the best one-off bats on Houston are the lefties. And
yeah,
I'm not sure if people are going to realize that the way Tyler Anderson pitches, he's like more of a reverse splits type of pitcher. So like I'm looking at like Alvarez and Tucker, and I know that Tucker is really expensive now, but I may have the money. I don't mind a Tucker one-off. I don't mind an Alvarez one-off, and I'm hoping that the field like looks at the Astros lineup and goes, well, I don't want to take lefties against Anderson. No, you should like I would almost be targeting the left. Like I would almost be looking like Tucker, Singleton, Caratini, Alvarez. I mean, obviously Caratini is going to bat from the other side of the plate, but like I don't mind these guys at all. And I'm hoping less people. I mean, the Astros are going to be owned. I'm just hoping less people play.
It's interesting. 8 pitchers. We have 3 reverse splits pitchers. One, the aforementioned Anderson, also Cole Reagans, and also Hunter Brown. Irvin would be my guy just because there's a K's in that Minnesota lineup. Minnesota's got that boom bust mentality where if you look at the plate IQ, it's almost all green. A lot of these guys hammer the ball, but a lot of these guys strike out a fair bit too. Julien is a great example. 213 as far as the ISO, 369 WOBA. That's really, really good, but 31% Ks. Larnett, 30% Ks, almost a 200 ISO. Again, boom bust. Correa, 24% Ks. You got Jeffers at 26% Ks. He's crushing the ball this year. A big ISO. Buxton, same deal. We saw him come back. He hit a homer yesterday. Good for him. But 31% strikeouts. Collectively, 25%. So there are some Ks in that lineup for Minnesota. So I think Irvin is like the best pivot for me. But, he also, 4 home runs. I got to take some water. Go ahead and say something.
I mean, looking at SimLabs, I could run SimLabs again. So I'm going to run SimLabs again. And this is, most people play these like larger field tournaments. So that's why I put in, the large field type of stuff. I'm going to change some. Yeah. Okay. The advanced settings are, they're fine. I'm going to move that up a little. Okay. So I'm going to run 150. We got updated data in. And like I said, it takes like 5 seconds. It's beautiful. I mean, I could pick any one of these lineups, but I'm just going just for research purposes. Because we're talking about that bucket of cheaper pitchers. So SimLabs tends to like
Give me Irvin.
No. It's scary. Obviously, Tariq Skubal is number one. Our SimLabs prefers Tariq Skubal way over Cole Reagans, even though Cole Reagans is up there. But if you had to choose one, it's going to be way more Skubal than Reagans. In the cheaper end, it has Hunter Brown as overowned, but you're still getting plenty of them. The two options that it wants the most is Woods Richardson and Quintana, and some Tyler Anderson, not much Jake Irvin, and a little bit of Tristan McKenzie. I guess out of the 10, actually out of the 8 pitchers on the slate, Tristan McKenzie is the least appealing option, and it's probably because of price. And I can see why Quintana could be up there, because this is the type of slate where, like, if no one does well, like, it may be, if you can combine between both pitchers for like 30 points at pitcher, that may be fine. Like, it just, like, if you could get like 30 points combined, maybe 25 combined. Let's say Cole Reagans gets hit.
Well, if you don't want that as far as if you're doubling the same pitchers in the same game there, Reagans and Skubal, you don't want 25. You want more than that. But I understand if you're going cheap, then sure, you could survive that, assuming those guys don't put up ceiling games.
Right. Well, that's the point that I'm making. That like the only reason why Quintana is probably coming up here is because he's the cheapest pitcher, and all of these cheap pitchers, their range of other than Hunter Brown, their range of outcomes is kind of narrow. It's kind of like just kind of if they get BABIP'd, they're not going to have many points, and if they get BABIP in their way, in their favor, with 3 or 4 strikeouts, maybe, yeah, they get 15 points or something. And Quintana's as likely to get that as someone like Jake Irvin or someone like Woods Richardson. So, like, I get that, but it does have Hunter Brown as overowned. Although still getting plenty of Hunter Brown lineups, but nowhere near his projected ownership. And it has Simeon Woods Richardson as underowned.
By the way, I just want to point out that Detroit, I don't know if maybe they don't have an analytics team or something like that in Detroit, but they did not start Kerry Carpenter. They did not start Riley Green. Their 2 best hitters, arguably. Green's in there. Carpenter's not in there, right? Okay, so they do have Green. But sitting Carpenter, left on left versus Reagans being reverse splitsy, they are very heavy right-handed is kind of the point. Green is in there, and Keith is in there. Those are the 2 lefties. So they have 7 righties. Reagans this season versus lefties, as far as the strikeouts, 21.2% versus righties, almost 29%. So it is a good Reagans matchup, long story short. All right. Anything else in the chat as far as pitchers? I think we can talk about some stacks. Just 8 teams. Blender, unless you got anything else as far as pitchers. You want to talk some stacks?
No, I mean, pitching-wise, I mean, Hunter Brown, just to be clear, Hunter Brown is the best projected cheap pitching option, but he has the widest range of outcomes. And I do agree, once we get to the stacks, that I think playing the Angels against Hunter Brown, absolutely viable. Absolutely. I mean, I'm playing 2 lineups today, Dean. It's quite possible one of my 2 lineups is going to be an Angels lineup against Brown, because I don't know.
A full 5?
At least 4, right?
Yeah.
When I go to put my 5th guy in, when I hand build and put my 5th guy in, I'm gonna look at my wrists, and I'm gonna go. It says WWDD.
What would Dean
do? What would Dean do? And I go, oh yeah,
I would get my Magic 8 Ball.
Right. I just think, what would Dean do? And it's like putting 4 guys in a, like, I'm trying to do this 1-1-1, but there aren't enough teams. Right. I'm up with this Myron Kidd, right? Angel stack and Vientos. Because we're gonna get the stacks. I think the Mets. I consider the stacks are all kind of close together, but I think I'm gonna be playing a Mets stack today.
I saw one of my favorite things yesterday on Twitter. We'll talk about it. As far as I always mention the Crawford boxes. Like, people always, I always talk about the Crawford boxes. Down the left field line in Houston, it's so close. You can get yourself a cheap homer. There's the account. I think it's an RG related account on Twitter that says like Lucky Hits. You ever see the Lucky Hit account? You know what I'm talking about? So Lucky Hit Home Run is my favorite. It's like my favorite thing to see. It was I think it was Millar, not Millar, Pilar. that had a lucky hit home run over the Crawford boxes. It seems funny.
I mean, that's the best thing if you have the guy. If you don't have him, it's not the best.
But it always amuses me, like, oh, how do you get a lucky home run? Because the crop, based upon the launch
and the opposite,
the exit velocity.
The opposite of that is the ones where it's like
the worst.
Like the fly ball out that would have been a home run in 29 out of 30 other ballparks or something like that.
That I want every 5 points. Give me 5 points, DK, for every barrel that dies in a glove, or how about that? Is that a fair compromise? I should get points for barrels. No. Yes.
I'm fine. We talked about it before. I'm fine with I'm fine with getting points for having like cool shoes that day. Just like it's like just like changing up his, some type of cool anything like the pitcher, because the pitchers sometimes have like the necklaces or something whatever, like that's like, and sometimes they have to take it off, but we have to see we have to wait to see when they come out to warm up.
Yeah,
like what cool like warm up jersey they have or something. We should get points.
I'm all for adding ridiculous points for all sorts of things, like that at midnight show or something like that, or Who's Line for the older people, I suppose. All right, so Blender, you did our tiers today. I have not yet seen it. Tell the people the category first, because tell them the category first, and I want the wet the beak there, and then they'll throw out their choices, and let's see if it's on your board. What is today's category?
Today's category is 2000s comedy films. So basically from the year 2000 to 2009.
Okay.
Comedy.
What inspired that? What inspired that? It's that specific, that 10-year window. Did you watch something recently, or just something just popped in your head?
I mean, I watched most all the movies. I mean, I literally went through a list of 2000s films made with comedies, and
2000.
All of them on a.
Look at the effort you put into this. You've never put this much effort into like the actual baseball analysis. I love this. Go ahead, continue.
Well, the baseball it's subjective, right? The baseball, it's like, dude, I'm looking at the projections. There's no projections for comedy films. So it's
biggest variance, M. Night Shyamalan. You never really know where that's going to go. That's not a comedy, obviously. I'm thinking like variance-wise, you never know what you're going to get for that. You might get a gem, or you might get a Lady in the Water. You might get an absolute disaster, but.
Right. But after the last time with the metal music or whatever, it's like, I'm going to go back to what I know.
Yes.
Like what everyone
Stay in your lane.
No, I mean, that's my lane also, but it's less in the lane of other people.
Ooh, okay. Oh, yeah. The last one's perfect. Yes.
The last one is the easiest one. I mean, dude, I have so many in the. Take a look at my list. My list here, like the A's, like I literally have only one movie in the A. I have only a couple of them in the B. And then C's and D's are like a ton of, and then E is like there's a lot in the E.
Eric is saying
once I saw Freddie Got Fingered, I'm like, no, that is the worst. That is probably the worst comedy ever, even greenlit by a studio ever.
The Backwards Band. You want some sausage? I got a couple more.
What is that movie? What is that? We have to start from the bottom. That movie is ridiculous. Like
you had to have been there. And you were there, Blender, but you had to have been there. But there was a window for like 3 years where Tom Green was like so hot. He was he was Hansel for a window. No dodgeball, Tropic Thunder being thrown out there. But explain your board.
Okay, but number one is easy. Mean Girls is
really
easy. Mean Girls is one of the greatest written comedies of all time. Of any decade, it's up there with Mel Brooks movies. It's up there with Woody Allen movies. It is probably the best comedy written.
Did you watch the sequel that just came out? I haven't seen it yet.
The's a sequel? I thought it's a musical. I thought
it's like a reboot. There's a musical also, but there's also I guess it's not a sequel, but like a relaunch, whatever they call it. A money grab, whatever word you want to use. I don't know.
Right.
Oh, you want a fun fact, Blender? This is a fun fact. The second male lead was in my graduating class in Mean Girls. Is that fun? Not really, but it is a fact.
No,
it is true. Idiocracy is also spectacular. The only argument against Idiocracy, like the front half, is much better than the back half. But continue.
That would be correct. I had to choose between two. I chose the one that was less problematic, even though it's technically not problematic. I also considered in the B tier to put Tropic Thunder in the B tier. Extremely well.
Everything, obviously.
Some problematic themes. They're making fun of the entertainment industry more than the topics at hand. Also, I think Scary Movie is a B tier movie. The
Not
original
like the sixth one, but the first couple
Right,
were a
the
lot of fun
original
for sure. Yeah.
I also think the two best comedies that could be B tier worthy of that like traditional, like very generically made comedy is Wedding Crashers and Anchorman.
Yes.
I could consider both of those to possibly be B tier movies.
You're gonna have to tweet out that list, by the way, because we don't have time to fully delve into it. But I'm curious, or at least DM it to me amongst all my other random DMs I get, which you talked about. But I'm curious to see your list. Continue, and we
40-year-old version. Yeah. There are tons of movies like 40-year-old version that like right in the middle. Like they're not bad, they're not great, they're perfectly fine.
There's not tons of movies. A lot of them came after it. Like it inspired some more movies, and it inspired a genre.
Right. Superbad, I would put in the C tier, the third tier. Superbad's that type of movie. So there's tons. Nate, so many movies that are in the chat are like, yes, all those movies I would put in like typically the C tier. Pineapple Express, blah blah blah. Right. Happy Gilmore, Steve, is not a 2000s comedy.
Yeah, 90s.
Right. The D tier. There are tons of movies in the D tier. The D tier movies, perfectly fine to watch. I don't think are great. I put the most overrated movie in D tier.
The Hangover.
The Hangover is probably the most overrated comedy of that time period.
This is not 3 or 2. This is the original you're talking about. You're saying is really bad.
The original. It's like it's okay. It's not great. It's okay. I saw it in the movie theater. I'm not saying that it's a bad movie. I'm just saying it's okay. Just it's talked about as if it's great, and it's like it's written just as well as like 20 other comedies that are of that ilk. What's your Euro Trip? I mean, that it's the same type of movie. It's a bunch of people going that do crazy things.
Scotty doesn't know.
Right. And the E tier.
Freddie got finger and he explains itself. It's a terrible movie.
I could have put stuff like White Chicks and Joe Not Dirt good. And the hot Rob Schneider with the hot chick, like that. Those are just awful. Those are awful. But once I saw Freddie Got Fingered, I'm like, no, nothing is worse. It's its own tier. Nothing worse than that.
Horrible Bosses being thrown out in chats.
Horrible Boss the 2000s movie, or is that 20?
Might have been like 2010, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I make sure to get the years right. So, like, I only looked at movies during that time period.
All right. Horrible Bosses. Yeah, 2011. There you go. Yeah, it did not fit the criteria. And there's a sequel to that movie that I don't think anybody saw, but I'm sure it was perfectly fine. Knocked Up was in the genre. Did you not mention Knocked Up?
The problem with Knocked Up is okay. It's just that it's Apatow, was given so much of a leash that his movies are like 45 minutes too. Like they cut out some of this stuff. It doesn't have to be the movie. Comedy shouldn't be over 2 hours. It's stupid.
All right. Did you see Unfrosted by chance? I'm assuming you saw Unfrosted.
I have it on my Netflix queue, and I've heard that it's awful, and I almost want to see how awful it is.
Yeah. Get back to me when you see Unfrosted. There's a lot of funny people in it. I'll say that. Minnesota is taking on Washington. 9.5 is the total. Washington is a slight dog here. Woods, Richardson, Jake Irvin, one of the biggest totals on the board, if not the biggest total on the board. It is collectively. Minnesota, I think, right there, right behind Houston as far as highest team total on the board. Where are we putting the Twins? Where are we putting the Nats?
I probably would put the Twins in Idiocracy. I mean, the only dig that they don't get to the top tier is because of a little bit because of ownership. Remember, I do my tier lists that are ownership adjusted, and I would put the Nationals. The Nationals would be in the Hangover, an overrated stack.
All right, I did want to mention, by the way, Minnesota. They're one of those teams that sets off my alarm bells of potential pinch hit stuff. Only one lefty in that Washington bullpen. Has not pitched in a couple days, but he's basically a guy that goes out there for one inning. Let's see. I was pulling it up and digging into it before the show. What's the guy's name? Robert Garcia.
By the way, just to respond to TJ in chat, I do agree that Underrated Gem is Accepted. Accepted is a movie that, I don't know, it seemed like no one watched, but is actually very good.
Stevie says this list just confirms that I will not be going to the movies of Blender and Dean. I don't know how I'm catching track. This is your list.
Also, I don't know. He thinks that I'm some highfalutin aristocrat that I own it.
You are a little
I like
highfalutin.
Frasier.
That's kind of
I
true.
love Frasier, and so that means it's like no, I don't. Right? Because you know what also is in my bottom tier, Talladega Nights. So like, yeah,
oh, that's a terrible
probably,
take. Yeah, you know what? I'm not
right,
going to lose either. That's a terrible take.
I'm banned. I can't work with Stevie anymore because I thought Talladega Nights was awful.
Well, how could you think that? Like awful? Like awful? I mean, if you didn't love it, sure, fine, I get it. But
it's not Freddie got fingered awful, but it's just awful. Just you probably got a lot of the references if you're a NASCAR fan, which I'm not.
You don't have to be a NASCAR fan.
Not a very well written movie.
I don't know about crepes and NASCAR, but just it worked. Dodgeball, no love, by the way.
I'm saying, look, read between the lines. Most of my commentary is about the writing, not about whether or not the movie is funny. So, like,
did you like Dodgeball?
On a much different. Like a lot of Will Ferrell movies are not well written. They're buoyed by the fact that Will Ferrell is an extremely good comedic actor that he can take any material and make it entertaining to watch. But the writing in of itself is not very. It's either derivative or just bad.
The chat is not happy with your.
Yeah, I know
they
weren't going to be happy. Why do you think I do? This is the whole point, Dean. You get engagement. I don't care if it's bad engagement.
Well, it's not it's organic, which is important because this is not you like just playing a character you genuinely believe. This is yeah. By the way,
just
waiting
like
is a good shout out in chat.
We got to move the Nationals down to the 4th tier. The Nationals shouldn't be a third tier stack, but
Nationals in the hangover.
Yeah, the Nationals. Again, I think I'm much more likely to play Woods Richardson than the Nationals, but that's kind of the only reason. But I mean, I think they're very close.
You ever work in the service industry? Yeah, as a waiter or waitress, or anything? Well, I guess you wouldn't work or waitress. But you ever work in the service industry in any capacity?
No.
Waiting is like a must watch if you have. I mean, you've probably seen the Waiting anyway, but yes. That's kind of an underrated movie.
I think Stevie, I will agree with one thing in the chat. I think Elf is the best Christmas comedy ever made. I think Elf. People sleep on Elf. Elf is an extremely good movie.
Best Christmas movie though is Eyes Wide Shut.
Where's my card? Number 5 is like no. Now I can't take you seriously.
Well, maybe he's doing it like terrible. I don't think he is though.
Get out of here. That's not serious,
dude. Really? Sweet. What does mine say? Mets and the Guardians. They're basically a coin toss here. Quintana versus McKenzie. It is a positive environment for hitting baseballs, according to Weather Edge. Where do you have the Mets and the Guardians today?
I have Mets on the top tier, and the Guardians
top tier.
I would put the Guardians on the 2nd tier. Just make sure you're not playing like you're going to run into a lot of chalk. Like that's the problem. Like Jose Ramirez, if you're paying up at third base, like I'm not sure if I play the Guardians today, but I mean, it's hard for me to put them like, I guess they're third only because of just the 3rd tier, the 2nd tier, whatever Stevie wants, whatever Steve puts it up. Well, that's fine. Right. But I would put Mets on the top tier because I think more people.
Well, he wants the Mets on top because he's a Met fan. You understand? That's what he's doing. Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
That's what's.
What you said the Mets were the top tier.
No, I did say they were. No, I did only because I think they're going to be less played than the Twins and the Astros. So, and I think they're in a good enough spot that even with a slightly lower team total, that the ownership will be lower on the Mets than it should be. So they should be top. Put them in the top tier. Don't tease people. There you go.
By the way, Stevie was playing the game as it's supposed to be played. He actually put "Dude, Where's My Car" in 5 because he hates "Dude, Where's My Car." So he was agreeing with you. He doesn't like it. He was putting it like with Freddie Got Fingered.
Oh, the tiers. Oh, okay.
That's what he was doing.
I thought he was doing top 5 movies, and I'm like,
he was playing the game appropriately as it was meant to be played.
You're right. I'm sorry. I have to apologize. He was playing the game right.
Detroit, KC, the 2 best pitchers on the mound. You know, Skubal versus Reagans, 3.5 total, both sides. Basically, Detroit slight favorite. You know, quote unquote leverage. If you want to play the leverage game, like we saw Bobby Witt break a slate last night, it's possible, sure. What are we doing here? Because like it's a 4-game slate, and also like you know what's not completely bonkers? Playing Bobby Witt with Skubal. Like you can do that. You're allowed to do that today. But go ahead. Your thoughts as far as Detroit and KC.
I would put KC on the. You have to put them on the 4th tier on a 4-game slate. They can't go on the bottom tier because they're the stack that's facing the most owned pitcher. So they're the worst that they could. The only reason they're on the 4th tier is because of of ownership. Detroit, I mean, I guess on the bottom tier because Reagan's is going to be just lower owned than Scooble, but I don't want to play either of these two teams. I mean, truthfully, I'd rather.
Yeah.
I think the Royals have better batters. So, like, if I were to play a one-off, I'd rather play like the middle of their lineup. Play Sal Perez, play Bascantino, play Witt, even some of the cheaper guys. But like as a stack, I kind of don't want to play either of these teams. They're not cheap. I mean, like they're not really cheap enough for me to consider. Like,
well, you can get them low owned, relatively speaking, on a 4-game slate. That's the big hook. That's the
right.
hook.
That's the only appealing option about these two teams.
And they're good. They're also pretty good. You know, it's not like low owned. They're terrible. But it's like one of the best players in baseball. What are you talking about?
Oh, I thought you meant like you're talking about the stack in general.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. I'm not going to full stack KC against Detroit in my few lineups, but I certainly am open to. I haven't built my lineups just yet. I'll do it when we get off the show. But I'm perfectly fine throwing a hitter against my pitcher. I'm not expecting a full clean sheet. All right, Angels, Astros. That's for you, Blender. I know you're a big soccer fan or football. You get the clean sheet reference. 9 is the total. Astros, big boy favorite here. Over a 5-team total, 5.35. You want to get all precise and technical. Altuve, Tucker, Alvarez, Tucker. Like he's hotter than the sun right now. Stealing bases, banging out homers every single day on the reg. Bregman, Pena, Singleton, Myers, DeBon, and Cartini. So they get the backup catcher in there. They brought back McCormick last night. He's already sitting again. He's sitting today. I guess that's like a day game after a night game after coming back from injuries. Angels, Astros, what do you got? The board is yours.
I would put the Astros on the second tier, only due to ownership reasons. And I would put the Angels on the third. Let's fill up that third tier, have a third tier. They're not an appealing team to play, but I would rather stack against Brown than against Reagans or Scooble. So they have to. So I feel like the Angels have to be above the Tigers and the Royals. Do I want to play the Angels? No, but Hunter Brown is high variance enough that like Hunter Brown could legitimately, within a reasonable range of outcomes, give up 6 runs in 3 innings against any team. And if 40% of the field is going to play Hunter Brown, like to me, this is the clear like bat leverage spot. And also, even if you play Hunter Brown, I don't like, dude, this may be sacrilege because I typically yell at you, Dean, for this.
You can play Joe Adell. You can do it.
Right,
you can play Joe Adell. You can play
Turner Ward or someone like that against. I think that's playing a one-off against him. That I think that's fine also. But Hunter Brown's definitely a more attackable pitcher than Scooble and Reagan's. So yeah, once this we don't even have an Angels lineup out yet.
No, we do. We have all the lineups. We got everything.
I need to reload. Okay, Adele's a little bit up in the order. Okay, no, this is a little.
I like Adele and Ward. Reverse splits
right.
Brown with the Crawford boxes down the left field line for righties. I think one of those two sneaks one out. Hunter Brown this year has been pretty unfortunate when it comes to a lot of things. Right, he's been unlucky. 7.71 ERA. The SIERA is 4.23. Home run the fly ball is 22%. Even the BABIP when it's not going over the fence is almost 400, 398. He's not stranding runners at the appropriate rate at 64%. Home runs per 9 is almost 2, which is almost twice as much higher than basically. Well, nobody else has won a homer per 9 higher than 1.16. Again, Hunter Brown's 1.93, been pretty unfortunate. But, yeah, I like those two power righties, Adele and Ward. I'm not sure if I'm going to go full Angel stack, but if I need to save some salary, I'm not against it. Our board here in Mean Girls, I can't believe you haven't seen the new Mean Girls if you like the first one so much. You're aware it exists, right? You're aware it happens?
I thought it was
Lindsay Lohan's not in it. It's a new cast.
Yeah, but is it not written by Tina Fey? Is it like
I think she's involved.
I think Tina
Fey's involved. I think so.
Yeah. There's so much stuff that's available. Dude, I have so much stuff in my queue as it is, but
yeah.
I know the musical. I knew that they were doing some type of musical. That I know. I think my wife has seen that.
You didn't take her? Like she went with her friends or something?
On streaming or whatever.
Okay.
Right.
I gotcha. Is that like when you instead of reading a book, you listen to a book, you saw a play, but you saw it on your laptop?
Hamilton. You could watch Hamilton, the Broadway musical, on streaming.
Yeah, but you can't say I saw Hamilton. It's like, oh, that's amazing. Well, yeah, I watched it on Disney Plus.
Right. What happens if I saw Hamilton here in Kentucky at the Kentucky Center with the touring Is that count as seeing Hamilton? Even
Yes,
though it
that
wasn't on
counts.
Broadway?
That is what I assume when you
Okay.
say I saw Hamilton. You actually went, you sat in a chair, you put on pants, maybe a suit if you felt like dressing in the nines, and you watch the play like an adult. But like if you watched it on your laptop, again, I'm not saying it's not. It's a little bit different. I'm not. If you say you saw Hamilton, I saw it on Disney Plus. I don't know if that counts. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Steve today is gonna see Jose Quintana shut out the Guardians. That's what he thinks he's gonna see. He's not at the game, but he's gonna see it. Does that not count?
It stings more when you watch it live. I'll tell you that. There's only one team in the Mean Girls category. It is the Mets. Three teams in Idiocracy. The second tier, that'd be the Twins, Cleveland, and Houston. One team smack in the middle, that is the Angels' 40-year-old version. And then two teams down there with the Hangover, egregious ranking of the Hangover, Washington and Kansas City. And the one you absolutely nailed, you got correct. Freddie got fingered. One team hanging out with Tom Green, that will be the Detroit Tigers. Seamless segue to crunch time. We got Kevin Roth. We have Dave Potts. And I always wonder, like when we're leading into them, like what are they talking about on the show that comes on before us? Well, maybe Stevie can help us out because Stevie was watching. Let's bring in crunch time.
What the hell are you guys talking about?
So Blender was ranking his favorite movies from favorite comedies from 2000 to 2009. Do you not remember Freddie Got Fingered with Tom Green? It happened. Good. Dave is laughing.
Whatever happened to Tom Green? Do we know?
Yeah, he got divorced from Drew Barrymore. I think he had like an internet show or something like that. I think he's still doing.
He was really a thing for like a little while there, like Road Trip and Freddie and Stealing Harvard, like weird stuff. And then
yes,
I haven't heard of the guy in a decade, 2 decades, honestly. I don't know. I hope he's doing all right.
It's so funny you say that, Dave. It's something funny you say that because I was telling Blender, I was saying, Blender, you were there, but some people in the chat weren't there. But Tom Green had like a 3-year window where he was like the guy.
Yeah, it was like he was everywhere.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I think Freddie Got Fingered is what happened. I'm pretty sure that might have been it.
That's a reasonable possibility.
Do you have a hot take, Kevin? Like Stevie was playing along. Your favorite comedy from that particular 2000, 2009? Anything kind of stand out to you? Or least favorite?
I mean, am I supposed to just know off the top? It was old school in that time frame?
Yeah, old school was during that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, old school. Oh, or my favorite, Superbad. If Superbad was in that time frame, it's definitely Superbad.
Yes, great calls. Hey, shout out to, not even on the show, TJ, who threw in The Other Guys when you're talking about the Will Ferrell movies. The Other Guys is fantastic.
It's got a great scene. I don't want to spoil it if you've never seen it, but like you're like, oh wow, wait, these guys are in it. Oh, and they're like, it's a great sort of scene and a concept. Which, I don't want to spoil it, but it's like, oh, this is amazing. It's gonna be this kind of movie, different kind of movie. Stevie, you got anything else?
It's too early for spoilers on The Other Guys. Give it a few more years.
It's only been 14. What is the statute of limitations? It's only been like 13 or 14 years. I don't know. Blender, anything else for the road before we step aside and get out of here and make way for crunch time?
No, I always enjoy making lists that by the time Stevie gets on is like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I'll try to keep it up.
Stevie was definitely tilted for sure, but you guys did agree that what was your worst one, Stevie? Yeah. The worst one was
Will's last week. Oh, the food rankings. Not even Blender. Will's food rankings last time we came on. Like, oh, it was just awful. But I mean, the medal rankings was pretty bad too. I mean. But anyway,
and you were taking shots at Dude, Where's My Car? That's yours. You didn't like that.
Yeah, but I didn't understand that was his tiers. I thought he was saying it's the 5th best movie. I'm like, no, that is a tier 5 movie. That's all. I agree with
Elf is a top 5 movie of all time, and it's in that like era. Ooh. So like it has to be number 1.
Oh well, all right.
I cannot disagree with. I think Elf is an extremely good movie. I just wouldn't put it in Mean Girls territory.
Dude, Where's My Car is the strangest third act where it all of a sudden turns into like an alien movie. It's like, well, when did this happen? What? We got 30 more minutes to write something. You guys got anything? I don't know. Let's make them aliens. Okay. Spoiler. I should have said spoiler. It's only been 15 years for Dude, Where's My Car? All right. Myself and Blender, we do thank you. I'll be on later. We'll be on later talking to baseball. 10-game slate later on tonight. But the rest of this show, it is all Kevin Roth. It is all Dave Potts and Stevie Roth. Take it away.
Good stuff. Dean, you did spoil it. I have not seen Dude, Where's My Car? And now I know there's random aliens that show up at the end. But this, you know what's happening. Spoiler alert here. You got two of the sharpest minds in the biz. You got my guy Stevie in the house. What up, Stevie?
What up? Don't waste an hour and a half of your life and watch Dude, Where's My Car? There you go.
Yeah, I wasn't
my
planning
tip for the
on
day.
it. Yeah, me and my brother actually got in a fist fight over the movie. He was going out to see it and didn't invite me, and we got in a legitimate punch each other in the face fist fight over it. But I never saw it. Like I think
Huh?
because of that, it's been on my shit list.
Did you know it was actually open to the public? You didn't even need his permission. You didn't have to fight or anything. You could have just gone.
I think he went with my friends, and that's what I was pissed about. I don't know. You know, the things that 13 and 14-year-olds fight over. We got my guy Cheese in the house as well. What up, Cheese?
Not too much, yeah. Weird little 4 gamer, and then we'll be back later for some even more games. But it's actually, as 4 gamers go, I like it.
Okay, yeah, it is. It's always interesting getting these early slates. Stevie, always great when you can join us on them. I guess my concern here is that we've got a couple of games where there's a decent chance of a delay, and when there's only 4 games, that means that the likelihood of you wanting one of these pitchers is pretty damn high, Cheese. So specifically, I'm talking about Cleveland and St. Louis. I think maybe they took St. Louis off.
Yeah, so that St. Louis game is not relevant.
It's not on either. It's not on any
Correct.
slate.
It's
Okay.
nowhere.
That's good. That leaves us with Cleveland, where right now radar looks pretty good, but some high resolution forecast models are just like popping up stuff around. And I can't tell you if it's going to go over the ballpark or near the ballpark, but there's going to be stuff around. And that means that pitchers are not safe in that game. Tell me it's not like the best pitcher.
Yeah, luckily, so all 8 pitchers are in play on this slate, but I think they're probably 7 and 8 for me.
Oh, God.
They are definitely my lowest owned pitchers, or 6 and 7 maybe. So
That's amazing.
It doesn't bother me even a skosh.
Wonderful. Okay. I was worried it was going to be like the chalk pitcher that everybody wanted. Okay. Well, then with that, I don't think there's any major concerns. Bats are going to be absolutely fine in Cleveland. That's not a concern. It's just chance of a delay. It's as yellow gets. Chance of a delay, and that's that. And that's really it as far as weather goes. So we can just dive into the slate. Cheese, give me an overview.
Yeah, I mean, so basically you've got 2 ace pitchers and they're facing each other in the same game, which whoop-de-doo if they're in the same game or not. Like if you can fit them both, play them both. That's Scooball and Reagans.
Mm-hmm.
On FanDuel, I mean, there's like a $900 gap, which is kind of relevant if you're trying to play like some Astros and some Jose Ramirez. So I like Reagans almost as much as Scooball. But despite the matchup, Scooball's just the better pitcher. So play Scooball. And on like a huge slate, if Scooball was on tonight's slate where we have a whole bunch of pitchers, I would say maybe we don't go crazy with him because it's the Royals, but there's just nothing here. Like I think you play Scooball and you play Reagans if you can afford him. The real interesting decision here is what to do with Hunter Brown, who looks like weird chalk. I mean, it's hard to get a guy with an ERA of over 7 at 40% ownership. You don't see
Is he
that
dirt
every day.
cheap or something?
Not really. I mean, he's cheap, but everything other than those 2 are cheap. It has nothing to do with price. If you're not playing Scooball and Reagans, you play anyone you want.
Mm-hmm.
It is that he used to be good. There have been little inklings that maybe he'll be good again. Like, I don't think he's terrible for sure. He also yet doesn't look like the guy that we saw last year that would be the best play on this slate. My take on it is I'm somewhat interested in getting ahead of the curve that Hunter Brown is back to being at least pretty good, but not at like 40% ownership. Like, it's such a problem. And I'm conflicted and bothered, and I don't like anything about it. So I'll tell you what I'm doing is I'm playing more Jake Irvin and Simeon Woods Richardson. And I do not like them either. Like, these are not good pitchers. We are not pivoting to good pitchers. We are pivoting to guys who just happen to throw strikes and maybe can get lucky with BABIP. Because I just don't want a 40% on Hunter Brown. Like, I have a couple because how can you not on a 4-game slate? But officially, Irvin is my favorite of these cheaper pitchers. Woods Richardson is second, and then Hunter Brown, and then I'm just throwing all the way down to Jose Quintana because, like, kind of like those other guys, like You just got a guy tossing the ball in there and hoping to get super lucky on BABIP. And if I get 8 points, I'm fine.
Would you say most of your lineups are Scooball Reagans combined? Is that your favorite way to do it?
Like most, because that locks you out of like everything. Like you can't play Ramirez, you can't play Kyle Tucker. I mean, unless you punt everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I would say most of them. That's my highest owned combo.
Yeah,
but most of them are Scooball plus either Irvin or Woods, Richardson or Brown.
Gotcha. Okay, good stuff. Let's bring in Stevie here, and well, the options are pretty clear. 2 top guys, 1 chalky dude, and then a bunch of nonsense. And maybe the chalky dude is nonsense. Stevie, how are your lineups looking?
I mean, I don't have really much to add. I'm going to play Scoble and Reagans as much as possible. I think I ended up at like 80% each in my 20-entry max build. And I think my 3-entry max build, I played them together in all 3. So just kind of prioritizing pitching. And like, I feel like it's opposite on the late slate. You're going to prioritize bats. But and then I have a little bit of Woods Richardson. I want to think Hunter Brown is going to come back and be good. I hate the ownership like Cheese was mentioning. I'm going to play a little bit. I mean, I don't want to play anybody else out of those 4 guys. Like, I'm playing 20 entries. McKenzie's awful, and I don't want to play him. Anderson is against Houston. Don't want to play him. I don't think Irvin's good, and Jose Quintana is probably the worst pitcher on the slate. So, like, looking at this slate, outside looking in on a 20-entry max build, it's just like, and even like a 3-entry max build, it's just, I cannot get to some of these guys. So I'm going to end up playing some Hunter Brown, maybe match the field, play a little under the field on him, and just kind of hope that he's back. I hate the fact that he's chalk, but again, I'm going to play Scoble and Reagans as much as I can today.
Okay, great. Well, with that, let's kick it over to the stacks. I don't know. I need a full catch-up. I don't know if any of these stacks are standing out or who we're trying to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think today is a day you could definitely play more 4-man stacks than like 5-man stacks. I don't think you have to like full stack on the slate as much as you typically would. And I think you could take 1 or 2 bats against your pitcher. I don't think it's crazy idea to like have some like Bobby Witt potentially on the slate, or like the cheap first baseman play that I like, Willie Calhoun against Hunter Brown. So I don't hate that, but I mean, my favorite stack is Houston. Outside of Houston, I'm going to have a lot of Twins, a lot of Nationals, a lot of Mets, a lot of Guardians. And I actually am going to build, I have around 20 to 25% like full stacks and like secondary stacks of the Angels against Hunter Brown today.
Okay. Cheese, your favorite stacks?
Yeah, it's essentially a 6-way tie with the Tigers and Royals being obvious, just MME leftovers against the good pitchers. I guess Houston is probably the chalk, but really when there's this few teams, like everyone gets a fair amount of ownership. Like outside of Tigers and Royals, there's no such thing as sneaky. There's going to be plenty of Twins, Nationals, Mets, Guardians, Angels, and Astros stacks. So I think you can play whoever you want in there and know, like, sure, one team might be 30% versus 20%, but there's no sneaky thing here.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite is the Mets. And I'm going under the field on the Astros, just thinking that they will be the most popular and they're expensive. But also, most likely to score the most runs is the Astros. But I think it's all muddled enough that I would rather spend up on the pitching rather than trying to jam in Tucker and Alvarez and Altuve.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we have 19 minutes, I believe, until lock, and that gives us plenty of time to go around the horn and then answer some questions as well. Cheese, let's start at the catcher spot. What do we like?
I want to like Ryan Jeffers, and I kind of do, but I love David Fry, and I feel weird about how much I like David Fry. Like, it's still smaller sample size, but he looks ridiculously fantastic against lefties, and I'm not sure it's totally fluky, so I'm playing a lot of him. I think it's totally fine to play a Sal Perez in a Scooball lineup, but really, if you're spending up, Ryan Jeffers makes more sense. The cheap stuff is fine. Like, I have a little Matt Face on his own. And then I think everything else is just in a stack.
Okay. Stevie?
Yeah, Fry by far my favorite catcher play on the slate. Base is fine. He's a cheap lefty. I mean, the cheap catchers are very much in play today because you're paying up for pitching as much as possible, like we mentioned. So Hedges, Navarez, Thais, like they're all fine. I mean, David Fry when you can because he's not like overly expensive. But again, I think just punting catcher is fine today. Like it's fine. I like doing it anyway. We don't have like Rutschman. We don't have Will Smith on this slate. Like, we don't have to worry about guys that are going to hit 2 home runs outside of maybe like Sal Perez.
Okay. How about first base?
Yeah, first base is somewhat interesting. I mean, at the top, you got Pete Alonso. I like paying down at first base today as well. Outside of Pete Alonso, going to play a lot of Pete Alonso. But I like Willie Calhoun. I like Joey Gallo, Woods Richardson. The stats on Woods Richardson's like scream regression is eventually going to happen against lefties, and like Joey Gallo is a high strikeout, high power guy. So, and he doesn't ever hit the ball on the ground. So a guy against like Woods Richardson, who the stats are like screaming regression, I think Joey Gallo's in a good spot for a home run today.
Okay, Cheese, first base.
Yeah, there's not a lot of names to add. Like definitely Alonso is the guy. Gallo and Meneses, totally fine for Washington. I also like Willie Calhoun as a cheap guy. I think that's all I have outside of stacks.
How about second base?
Like I mentioned, I'm not playing a ton of Houston because I can't quite prioritize Altuve on this slate because I want the pitching. Certainly play Altuve. But Julian and Garcia are the guys I have the most of. Like they're considerably cheaper than Altuve, a little cheaper than Jimenez. I don't mind going all the way down to Kyron Paris if you need a punt. Like there's going to be some positions if you do Skubal and Reagans where you just have to just nonsense punt a spot just to make things fit. So I am fine with Paris there, but pretty much Julian and Garcia is the bulk of my player pool.
Stevie, any other names at second?
I mean, outside of those two guys, I think Jeff McNeil in Met stats, like McKenzie's just so bad against lefties that like getting a little Jeff McNeil in your builds is probably going to happen when you're building Met stats. So, and then like if you're not like if you're playing a little bit of Detroit, you could play Ibanez against Reagans. Ibanez, sorry. My matcha hasn't kicked in yet, but I think you could play a little bit of him against Reagans. He's really good against lefties, but overall, I know Julian's been struggling, but Irvin, low strikeout guy, this is a good spot for him to get on track.
All right, how about third?
I mean, Jose Ramirez by a large margin. Alex Bregman, he has this new magic headband, so you could take some shots on Bregman. You know, all the power. Like we need the bat to like start predicting like headband power. Outside of those two guys, really, like it's just in stacks for me. So like I'm prioritizing Bregman and Ramirez as much as possible.
Cheese, third.
Ramirez looks like good chalk to me. Like that's what I think you want to spend up on in this slate. I have like Jose Miranda and Mark Vientos just for savings, but I have money to spend at one spot, and this is the spot I'm doing it. Jose Ramirez.
Shortstop.
We don't have a whole bunch of our usual superstars. If you're downgrading Bobby Witt for the matchup, Bobby Witt should be in your pool every day. Like he's just amazing. But it's certainly not this is the time we have to play Bobby Witt. Lindor is far and away my favorite for the salary. Probably my second highest owned player after Ramirez. I'm fine with CJ Abrams. Also expensive though. The cheap stuff is just like it's fine, but like guys like Neto and Rocchio and Arias, like that really just should be just in stack because you can get up to Lindor without too much trouble. So I don't really like going lower than that outside of a stack.
Okay. We got Dean's official dongs in here. JD Martinez, Joe Adele, and he says Turner Ward.
Turner Ward playing baseball for the first time ever. I wonder what team he will be on.
So there you go. Official Dean's dongs are listed, and we still need some shortstop picks from you, Stevie.
Yeah, I mean Lindor, clearly the top shortstop play, so like playing him a lot. I like the idea of paying up to be different on the slate with Abrams because like I think the projected ownership is probably really close to what it's going to be. Like we have him 5 to 10% on FanDuel and DraftKings, and like just no one's going to want to pay this price for him on DK today because we're prioritizing pitching. So like the idea of being different and getting Abrams again. I think Woods Richardson has some regression. Outside of those two guys, I mean, Jeremy Pena against Anderson is fine, and then just shortstops and stacks that are cheap, just to kind of build out some stacks. But yeah, overall, Lindor and Abrams by a large margin today.
Okay, take me to the outfield.
A lot of plays, always is. Outside of stacks, I mean, I have a ton of interest in like Eddie Rosario. He's like 3.4K, hitting second today. The Guardians, I almost called them the Indians. I do that so much. But the Guardians called up Jonathan Rodriguez yesterday. He went 0 for 4 in his debut, but he is minimum salary on DraftKings. I like him a lot. Grades out as like a big-time raw power guy, and he's facing Jose Quintana. So with him being 2K, if he can get any kind of extra base hit at that price tag, he makes a lot of sense today. And then like cheap power, DJ Stewart, I think is fine. Jake Myers is fine. And I mean, I like the Angels a little bit, so I'll be playing some Joe Adell and Mickey Moniak on the cheaper end. But top end, Houston always in play. Don't be afraid to play like Kyle Tucker or Yordan Alvarez, lefty against Anderson. Don't be afraid to play some Taylor Ward. And then Brendan Nimmo, kind of in this like mid tier, is one of my favorite plays. I ended up on a lot of him when I was building teams.
Okay. Cheese, your thoughts in the outfield?
Yeah, let's not bury the lead with 2K Jonathan Rodriguez. It's rare you get Cheese and Stevie dots on the same player. I think
nice.
that's what you want to notice there. I mean, he's 2K. Like, even if he goes over 4, you're fine. But like he has talent. He's not a nobody. So I love him at the salary. Alvarez and Tucker, fantastic. I do like Brandon Nimmo a ton. Also good with the Angels. There's a ton of outfielders, but that's kind of my main pool there.
Okay. Then we've done the things. We want some home run picks. Of course, we got Dean's Dalton's in with some guy who doesn't exist. But we need some picks from you. Cheese, you want to lead us off?
You know that I do. I'll go with Brandon Nimmo. And Mickey Moniak. And Jonathan Rodriguez.
Okay, nice. Stevie, you got a few names for me?
Yeah, I wrote down 3. I really thought Cheese was going to take one of mine, but give me...
Well, if it's Willie Calhoun, I was going to take him, but I thought you would want him.
No, actually, I didn't write him down today. I wrote down David Fry, and I thought David Fry... Me and you were on the same page with David Fry today, so I thought you were going to take David Fry. But give me David Fry, Max Kepler, and Joey Gallo to hit home runs today.
Very good, guys. We have about 10 minutes until the end of the show. We have 15 until lock. We're going to close it down at 1 Eastern because the Swolecast is being recorded immediately following this. So let's dive into some QQs. We got Go in the chat who says, which SP is least likely to win? It's kind of a fun question. Geez, which starting pitcher is least likely to win?
These games are toss-ups, man. Tyler Anderson, I guess.
Okay.
I'd say Jose Quintana. That would have been my answer.
Okay.
I would say that, except if he gets 5 innings, he's guaranteed to win because they're going to score so many runs. Like, really, that's how I feel about it. If he squeaks through 5 innings, it's a win.
Yeah, they've been pulling him a lot. Like, his leash has just been really shrunk recently. That's the only reason I was thinking him. Like, Anderson's going to throw 90 whether he's pitching good or not. So,
yeah. Hey, do we?
I don't think it's a great slate to pick a winner or loser. And now,
yeah,
go.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Hey, never been a better time to sign up for RotoGrinders Premium, by the way. We've got an option for whatever level you're looking for. You can get a 6-month combo subscription, exclusive price, $469.99. That is a savings of 250 clams instead of buying 6 individual months of combo premium. You can also get your first month of RG Premium $40 off for a limited time. And if you just want a test run, you don't want to drop, $469, you can get a 3-day pass for $19.99. Check the links in the description for more info. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit us with a thumbs up. It's free content that you got here. And all that we ask is that you hit that like button. Let's see if we've got any questions in the Discord here. Favorite pitcher is a good one. Favorite pitcher in a FanDuel GPP. Stevie, we got 2 pitchers up top. I assume it's one of them, but I don't know which one.
I actually lean Scoble because Reagan's is cheaper, and I think more people might play Reagan's. I think Scoble has a higher ceiling. I think they're both fantastic. So I played a single entry team on FanDuel, and I have Scoble.
Very nice. Okay. Cheese, I feel like you feel similarly based on your musings, which had a whole little note about him.
If I only had one lineup on FanDuel, I would actually go Reagan's.
No. But you said there are 2, and this is straight from your musings. There are 2 aces. Which one do I like more? Tariq Skubal. Which one is he? He's the one named Tariq Skubal. That's
And I have more of him than Reagan's. But in one lineup, I actually think Reagan's has the higher upside because he's the one who could get 110 pitches in a best case scenario. Skubal could never get that in a best case scenario. I won't say never. If he's throwing a perfect game, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we've got some more questions. We'll hang out a little longer. If the questions dry up, we will bounce. Cheese, DK, GPP, Skubal, and Woods Richardson, or Reagan's and Irving?
Skubal, Woods, Richardson.
Trippy says, why Vientos? Why Vientos? We didn't say Vientos, did we? I think maybe someone in the chat.
Yeah, I think he's asking from someone in the chat saying Vientos. But the answer is because he's facing McKenzie.
Oh.
Like anyone against McKenzie is viable.
Yep. Stevie, Jordan or J-Ram for my DK cash pay up?
Oh, Ramirez. Like in tournaments, you can make the argument for Jordan over Ramirez, but in cash, I mean, you just play. He's the best third baseman on the slate.
Yeah. Okay. Stevie, back to you here from Beaner. Would you stack Skubal with Astros and Angels?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I like the Angels. I think they're a really interesting team today because Brown is getting like ownership. So the Angels, like on a 4-game slate, they're not getting as much ownership as I think they would if we had 4 or 5 more pitching options. So yeah, I like the Angels today.
All right. King says, hey, I'm just dropping in. Can you give an update on the Cleveland weather? Sure. There's a few little showers that are headed towards the ballpark. Probably going to rain, but as of now, it doesn't look very heavy. Doesn't look very big. Even if they did briefly stop, they'd be back out there like pretty quickly. There's certainly a chance for a delay, right? And that's kind of been the forecast. We'll see what has yet to pop. It's only 1 o'clock in the afternoon. More storms are going to pop. If you made me guess, I'll say they either avoid a delay or have a quick enough delay that pitchers don't even get pulled. That would be my best guess. What else do we got? Stevie, thoughts on an Angels Cleveland stack?
Yeah, again, I like the Angels against Brown. I think I ended up at like 20-25% of them. And I like the Guardians. Jose Quintana just not missing bats. They got some good power righties in this lineup. And then, yeah, I mean, I think Cleveland is one of the top stacks on the slate.
All right. Cheese, will Raggy get 7 Ks? That's Reagan's, but it looks like Raggy, and I was very confused at first, but he means Reagan's.
Probably. Yeah, I would say 7 is more likely. I would take the over 6.5 if I had to choose.
Okay, great. Mitchell says, "What are the home run calls the day you missed it by like 3 minutes? We gave home run calls. Not going to make them redo it." Beaner says, "Stevie, your thoughts on Washington? Is that a team or a person?"
I'm guessing he means Washington Nationals. I like them a lot today. Woods Richardson, again, some regression. They have power and stolen base upside. So I don't know how much like full stacks I would recommend on Washington, but I do think they're like a good like 3 or 4 man stack today.
Very good. There we go. Raggy is what Scooby-Doo calls Shaggy. Yeah, that's actually true because he can't do the S's. I think that's a pretty good note to end it on because we've got the Swolecast coming up. So for Stevie and for Cheese and for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes, guys, we appreciate you. We love you, and we will catch you later today. You have been crunched.